here come Black-Eyed Susie. How do you think I know she got a 12-inch bow and a cold steel 44? Here comes Black-Eyed Susie, yeah, how do you think I know? She got a 12-inch bow and a cold steel 44.
Welcome, everyone. You know, it is the fourth Sunday, and that means Joey Stuckey is here on Big Blend Radio as co-host. And today we have a special guest that you've heard on Big Blend Radio before, I am sure, James Byfield, known as Blind Lemon Pledge. He's got a brand new album out, and that is exciting because I believe it's his 10th album, and it
11th.
is called 11th? Lemon Live, not Lemon Lime, Lemon Live. Right? That's, you got us on that one.
I did. I saw your email and I went, perfect. That's just what I wanted.
No, because the live looks like a lime. It's really good. And I know you've got a graphic design background too. So that you nailed me. But to have you back, James. Joey, how are you doing?
Doing great. Always glad to be here with you.
Yeah, now you just came back from Savannah. I was watching your post going, Joey's back in Savannah. Were you doing speaking and doing that again?
No.
The Scars District?
This time I was there to see a friend of mine, Falu Shah, who is also part of the brilliant group Patchwork Quartet. And she's a fabulous artist. And we've known each other for years and years and years, but hadn't had a chance to hear her perform. And she sings Indian music, and it's absolutely incredible. It's great because their pitch system in the Western pitch system we have 12 notes. In the Eastern pitch system, there's as many as 22 notes. So because they're like quarter tones and all these different things, so she's absolutely fabulous. And then while I was there, I said, well, since we're here, let's connect with a bunch of our friends from SCAD and other places. And so we just decided to have a nice catch up with friends that we hadn't seen for a long time. So we didn't do anything business wise, just visit with old friends, which is awesome.
Wow, that's nice. And I just called SCAD Scars, didn't I?
You did.
I've got everything twirled around. I've got Lemon Lime versus Lemon Live. I've got Scars versus SCAD. I'm doing good today. Hey, we are recording this on a Monday, and that is why. And I was up all night working, so I get to be like this. But I'll tell you what, good music. It is exciting. Joey's been co-hosting the Big Daily Blend for a while now, and he's been on our show for years, just like James. But Joey and I decided, hey, last month, that we're going to be dedicating the show. We talk about music nonstop, no matter what it is. But Music Talks is his show here with us. So we talk about what's going on in the music world, but also bringing guests on with new music. And James, I'm excited to have you on the show. I want people to know, so Joey is a blind musician. In fact, he teaches and talks around the world about technology for the blind, especially in the music side of things. But your band name and you are known as Blind Lemon Pledge. So a little bit of a different blind there, Joey. But James, tell everybody a little bit about the name.
Well, the name actually comes from an old Martin Mull routine. I don't know if you remember him. He was a comedian and TV actor. And anyway, he had this bit about a white blues musician called Blind Lemon Pledge. So at a certain point in 2009, I was putting together my first solo album using a homegrown music software and that kind of thing. And I was searching for a name, and I thought, well, I remembered the Blind Lemon Pledge name. So I created a whole backstory on the album notes and created this character. Kind of blew it because there were several other people that were using it too. And I only found out about that afterwards. It was before we learned to do extensive Google searches. But anyway, so I started using it, and the first album got played in Europe and some places in the U.S. And so I kind of felt I was stuck with the name. So eventually I trademarked it. So it's officially mine. And most of the other people that were using it have sort of stopped. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, James, what I love about your music is that there's always a story, whether or not it's a song you're covering And of course, with this being a live album, not a Lime album, there's songs on there that I'm very familiar with that you've done before, but there's always a character and a story. So I think the name of your band and your name is Blind Lemon Pledge. It makes sense because you're always building a story. It's like, I feel like you could write a novel, like what Ry Cooder did a book it's stories he wrote about LA, living in LA in the 50s and 60s. And I read it every time I go to our friend's bed and breakfast in Arkansas, Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast. I got to give a shout out to them. Big music people. And so they have this book of essays and just little stories, all characters. And I feel like you could do that with your albums, like a bunch of short stories from these characters that you're singing about.
Yeah, that's very perceptive. That's kind of my style of writing totally. I used to write a lot of stories and stuff, and when I was younger, and the whole writing thing just kind of evolved eventually into the songs. And the thing I like about the songs is trying to tell a whole story in as few lines as possible, just condense it and just get certain points and stuff. So that's always my goal.
Joey, this kind of goes with what we were talking about last month with the storytellers.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, songwriting's, unique sort of storytelling because you have other constraints just besides the words. You've got rhythmic constraints and you've got melodic constraints and you've got, things that you have to do to make the words make sense. And so it adds layers of complexity to telling, writing a story is one thing, in prose or whatever. And then you start adding all these other sort of layers of complexity to make it a musical format, and it gets even more challenging. But James does that with great aplomb, I think. So that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And I love. I don't know who's playing the slide guitar, but
that's
I
me.
I love it. It has a real sense of gravitas to it, and it's something that I have never been good at. Now, admittedly, I kind of shot myself in the foot. I spent about 15 minutes trying to play slide guitar and trying to play with the CD of Jerry Douglas, which was a terrible idea. Because I instantly was like, oh my God, this guy's so good. And I sound like a couple of cats being put in a blender. So I kind of put the slide down. I've never been comfortable with a slide. And admittedly, again, I've spent a total of probably an hour and, trying to fool with it, but it's always sort of eluded me. And so I've always, but I'm more, my guitar stuff is more the Hendrixy kind of, bends and stuff like that. But I love slide guitar, but it's always been something that I've never. And everybody's like, "Oh, you're a blind guy. You should play slide guitar." I was like, "Well, I don't."
Yeah.
Isn't that funny that you got to go? Yeah, that's wild. I think I love the slide. I think that's something I've always talked to you about too, James, the slide. And then what I like is with this album too, it's just so real and authentic. And I've always felt that we've talked about that with your other albums too, is just like, it's so not overproduced. I don't think if you ever did an overproduced album, I'd have to run out to the Bay Area and kick your butt. Like really.
I actually think my older albums are overproduced. There was I had several albums in a row, and then back in 2020, I released an album, you remember, called Going Home. It's just a duet. And that was the first one that did really well. And I went, oh my God, it's just two people playing live. And I didn't add these layers because I used to add piano and this and that. And I said, my whole philosophy changed. I went, okay, everything's just going to be pure, as few instruments as possible, just get that real. Because the thing is, my biggest influence is the pre-war blues guys, and they're all just usually a guitar and a person, or the jug bands, which I also like too. And I went, well, this is the music I listen to, and yet I've been cluttering up with too much stuff. Like I have the album called Pledge Drive. That's, I'm proud of it, but it's got so much stuff on it. So now everything is like bare bones. That's what I like.
As you said, I mean, your influences are some of those guys were true like street musicians, and traveled light, and not only played the blues but lived the blues. And I think the honesty of what you've got, plays homage to that whole scene. And with the last album I did, which was last year, it was done on accident. It was me in my studio playing 6 songs live, just the guitar and the vocal, as the backdrop to a little documentary that was shot about me. And the response was and it's just me and the guitar, and the response was so overwhelming. We just said, well, let's just we've already done all the work. Let's take all the songs that we did for the documentary, put them on a CD and do a little EP. And it worked really well. And it goes back to that, just, it was real. And there was, nothing but a guitar and a vocal, and there's something to that. And it's risky. There's some risk involved with just a guy and a guitar. I mean, there's
But it lays it bare, warts and all, I say.
yeah. But that's the blues is about, is about that honest, emotion, and that's all. I think, boy, I'll tell you, that's when you can get it right and you can keep it simple. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. There are a few little guitar blips on the current record, and I just leave them in. It's like, okay, I got a mistake, that happens.
Yeah, it's character.
Yeah.
Well, that's just life, right? And when you think about Americana and roots music is getting, whatever's going on in the day, getting it out of your system. It's, I think the longer I don't play music, the worse my vocabulary gets. So I got to go see Joey soon so I can record something or do something musically, because truly, like, it's when you are a musician and a songwriter, if you don't do what's got to come out, it doesn't feel good. It is not
That's true.
It's a weird, horrible, it's like being locked in an office with those stupid, horrible lights,
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's like going to a big box store. It's the same feeling to me. It's horrible. And so I think there's something that's inside that has to come out, and it's not always pure. And it's pure, but it's not always this perfect thing. And perfection is so overrated. I always say some of the best albums on the planet are live, because it's what is exactly needed to come out at that time from, there's albums where people are hammered or something and really screwed up because they're drunk or high or something. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just like when it's just so real and honest, it's authentic. I think, Joey, when you said honesty, I think that's the thing. You're supposed to have some flaws. And if you don't have any kind of flaw, how are you going to grow and do something new? Flaws take us to different avenues. And that's also true. For the listener, it allows listeners to understand this thing for perfection. I understand getting an album as good as you can get it, right? But perfection, it's overrated. And this is from a Virgo speaking. So I'm learning in my older years that it really is like trying to chase your tail like a puppy, But Joey, you are a producer. I mean, there's just time when you need to step back because you can mess up something that was good.
Yeah. One of my earliest lessons was when I was probably 19 or 20 years old. It was the first big record I'd been part of, and I was just an assistant. And it was the Outlaws album, the last Outlaws album, which was called Diablo Canyon. And I learned a really important lesson there. They had a really smart producer, musically very smart, very gifted, but tried to control things and perfect things that didn't need it. And so one of the guys in the band laid down a guitar solo that was perfect. It was great. It was everything it needed to be. And he did it. Yeah. He did it in like 30 seconds, and it was all it needed. They spent the next almost 4 hours punching that solo and trying to make it into something it wasn't. And I saw at that age, I was like, oh my God, this is the biggest waste of time. And like when.
And you drain the soul out of it.
Exactly. And by the time it was done, it was different, but it wasn't any better. In fact, it was worse because you could tell there was no heart and no soul behind the playing anymore. He was overthinking it. He was thinking, and so that was one of the biggest lessons I learned. And actually, right now, I've been since 2023, I've been doing a keynote called "How to Avoid Sound Blindness," and at about 2/3 through the keynote address, I go through a bunch of hit songs and prove that there's no such thing as the perfect record. I go through a bunch of hit songs and pick them apart and show you all the flaws that are in them. So there is, I don't believe there is such a thing as a perfect mix. There's a good mix. There's a mix that gets the job done, because my philosophy is one of the hardest things to know when you're in this business is when to stop fiddling. When to stop.
Yep, exactly.
And so as soon as the mix communicates, stop playing with it. It's done. As soon as it communicates what it was meant to communicate, then you're done. You might get something different, but you're not going to get anything any better.
I hate to say this, but they have that saying, "Stop it or you'll go blind."
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it had to come out.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened to me.
It's like,
that's the rumor, at least.
As far as you know.
But we'll title this episode "Stop It or You'll Go Blind."
Yeah.
Well, it's true, because it's like it's the same thing too in a band where, you get somebody who has their solo moment and then decides the solo moment is the same thing on repeat for 10 minutes, and what I mean? Yeah. We've all had that happen, right? In a band where the solo just keeps extending and it didn't need to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things I really liked about making this record, and it was the first live one I ever did, was that I can't say there wasn't any editing. I did cut out a solo here or there, but mostly it was just a matter of picking we did 2 takes of everything, and which of the 2 takes to do, because then it was done. And we also filmed it at the same time, videoed it at the same time, so the videos were all done simultaneously. So it was really nice. It was least amount of work I've had to put on a project at all.
Oh, so go ahead. I was going to tell people, if they go to your website, blindlemon-pledge.com, they can go and see the YouTube and the videos of this, because then they can check it out, and it's on Spotify and all those places. But where did you film it and record it?
Oh, well, there's this place down in Pacifica, California, that we play at once a month, and it's just a coffee house restaurant. But the thing that is unique about it, and why musicians love to go there, is that the audience is there for the music, amazingly. And so it's kind of gained this reputation. People just love to play there because eager audiences come and they really listen to what you're doing. One night I did a gig there, and I do this song called Sherry Lynn, where it says, "Girl, you're sugar fine." And I ended the song, and this guy yelled out, "I really like that line, 'Girl, you're sugar fine.'" And I went, "You listen to that?"
That's cool. When they're quoting the lyrics back to you, that's
Oh, no, it's I got lots of stories like that from that place. People really get into the music. It's amazing. And now we play there once a month, so now people are singing along with the songs, which is really strange.
Great. Yeah, that's the thing that when I was in the UK on tour, a lot of the gigs that I booked myself were little pubs or whatever. But we did have one night where we played a listening room, and it was like that. It held about 70 people, maybe something like that, and they were all there. They were all there because they love original music, and they wanted to hear original music. And
wow.
And so it's a beautiful thing. There's a very famous place in Atlanta, which is about an hour and a half from where I live. I live in Macon, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half south of Atlanta proper. There's a famous room here called Eddie's Attic, which is the same thing. It's like a listening room where people really come to hear the music. Nice. And it's really, so when you find a treasured location like that, man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And this is Pacifica. I've always wanted to go there. I mean, I don't think
Pacifica's beautiful. Yeah, you should go there. It's a great place where you can just sit on the near the sea, and whales come and dolphins come, and the cafe itself looks out over the ocean. And so sometimes when we're playing, a whale breaches, and it's really great.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it's really nice. So what we did was we invited all the regulars, and we just threw a big party. We catered it, and they were the audience. And what we did was we did the set, and then ate, and then did the same set again. So we had 2 takes of everything.
That's brilliant.
It came out way better than I thought it would. I was hoping for the best, but so much can go wrong in a live thing. The equipment can screw up, or you have a bad night, or whatever, But it just kind of all came together. The audience was excited, and partly I did it to showcase our harmonica player because he hasn't really been on any of my recordings, and he just feeds off the audience, so you can kind of tell it in the final recording. We just got a review out today from the UK where they just really praised him, which was nice.
Well, I was going to say that was one of my other favorite parts was the harmonica. I really enjoyed that a lot too.
Yeah. He has so much energy. And it's nice, we're just like a 4-piece band, and and you can really feed off each other's energy and the audience energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what a great idea to do the live album is that's a fun experience. If you can capture that energy between the audience and the band, and you can capture that. That's a lot of fun. Yeah,
and I felt like we did. That was the other reason we had to. I don't usually do covers, mostly because I don't want to pay for them.
Yeah.
But our repertoire is this kind of combination of covers and originals. I used to do all originals, but then I found if I started mixing them with covers, people just accepted the originals more because they were in a vein of stuff, and people saw the connection of my music to the traditions I listened to, and so that was the winning formula.
I do the exact same thing, and it really works well. It's about 2/3 originals and 1/3 cover, and you just kind of you play the song they know really well to get everybody excited, and slip 2 or 3 originals in, and they're just as excited about those, and it works really well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your drummer because we don't see very many female drummers, and I think that's cool that you have a lady drummer.
Yeah, she's great. She's a really good drummer. There were a couple times. There was one time, I think it was Somebody Loaned Me a Dime. I was singing it, and I screwed up the last verse. So I just said, let's just sing it again, because I knew I could cut it in, because she keeps metronome time. So you can actually cut something and move it around, and her time is like as if she was playing to a click track. So I like that about her. She's really good and very inventive. She does some really interesting things, and it's fun to have. I like the feminine energy and that she brings. She's an amazing person. Actually, she's a lifelong music teacher. So she's one of these people that literally knows how to play to some extent almost every instrument. So
oh wow,
she's fun to be around.
That's cool.
Anyway, the drummer is really great, and the other people in the band are Peter, my longtime bass player, and Winston on harmonica. And Peter and I have been playing since 2012, so we've got a long, strong background together.
It sounds like, a band, like I want to say you're a tight band, but at the same time, just loose. You know what I mean? It just feels right. Like I do feel like I'm on a porch. And I told you, I love playing your music out when we're out in the Appalachian area. It goes with where we are. It really, and right now we're in the middle of the Smoky Mountains. So listening to your music in the Smoky Mountains is like, it's perfect. And, when you go to drive through areas where, like through Tennessee and all of those areas, Kentucky, yeah, I was going to say, listening to your music in the right area, it just is magical to me, because you capture the region. And when I say the region, I mean the people of the region, and the people, their stories come from where they are, their place. And so when you see these little, homesteads, and homesteads more in the West, but it's just little cabins and things out in the Smoky Mountains. It feels home here. And I love that you're just relaxed with your music. You know what I mean? It really feels just like, everyone's on the porch and a great band is playing, and you're hearing all these stories. It's a great album.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I love that idea of different geographic areas having different vibes. And that's certainly true for me when I think about if I want to think about being at the beach, or if I want to think about being in a big city. There's all those things have different moods that you enjoy, and I certainly play specific music to feel that way. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you did this, and are you going to be doing another live album or a new? What's going on?
I don't know. Well, I'd sort of thought that the 10th one was the last one. I sort of was throwing that around, but then I suddenly had this idea for the live album. So the other thing the next one that I think I'm going to do is you remember the jazz album I did
Yes.
After Hours?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been listening to it, and it got good reviews, but it never went anywhere on the charts. And it's a shame because the piano playing on that is just so incredible. So I decided I'm going to re-record the vocals with me singing them and turn it into a blues album, since it's a jazz album with a lot of blues in it. So it's going to be a jazzy blues album now, and I'm going to rearrange the order of the tunes and then re-record the solos. The woman that sang on it and I have almost the same vocal range. I've got a high one and she's got a low one, so I may not even have to change the keys. I've been experimenting at home around with it, so that's probably going to be the next one. Is re-release that one in a new form.
Maybe you do it live.
Pardon?
Maybe you'll do it live. You never know.
No, because I've got the tracks all done with the piano player. Yeah.
Huh.
So I might do another live album in the future. I don't know. I'm sort of running out of material too, to be honest.
Well,
I've kind of recorded so many. I've got 11 albums, and most of my songs that are good have been recorded at this point.
Yeah, because you can't just keep, here, I'm going to just write one because I need to do an album. It's not like contract kind of thing where they force you to keep chug it out no matter what, and do it this way so that we can sell this, merchandise, do that, the wheel of it all. But you did put in, and I wanted to say this earlier, Judy Henske in there. I know you write her. Well, I know she didn't write it, right? That's a traditional, but that's how I knew the song was from her originally. And used to cover that song. So it was good to hear it again and hear it live, because it's a good rhythm, man. It's got a good rhythm to that. I think.
I love that song.
Train music. You could hear that on a train,
Yeah. Well, that one, I've been doing that song since I was like 14 years old. So, it was one of the first songs I learned when I was learning guitar and stuff. And so I've just kind of kept it in my repertoire for all these years. The Grateful Dead used to do it too.
That's right. I love these songs coming back through too. Some of the ones, Little Red Rooster, you got that in there. Gotta have
And the review we got today said that compared it favorably to the original version. It said it has the same feel and starkness, and I thought, oh, thank you so much.
That's great. Congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was an incredible review. It was like really the kind you hope for.
Do you send your music over to Europe so people can hear it in Europe?
Oh yeah, since about the third album, I've been hiring a promoter, a company called Blind Raccoon, that are out of Memphis.
You got to just because they're the Blind Raccoons.
Yeah, interesting that when I was sending my own stuff around for a while, and then a DJ in France that I'd sent stuff to contacted me and said, you ought to hook up with this person at Blind Raccoon. Betsy Brown is her name. And so the next album that I had a chance to do that, I did, and she liked the stuff. And she represents Buddy Guy and several people. So she's she's really, every time I talk to a DJ or something and they say, oh, I see you with Betsy Brown, good move, she's kind of got a great reputation in the blues world. So she's been in my corner since we first hooked up. So that's been really nice. And the last 3 albums, have all ended up in the year-end top 10 for the acoustic blues record, so it's working out real well.
Right on.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. And hey, anybody who represents Buddy Guy's got to be one of the best, because Buddy Guy to me
Oh
is
yeah,
a hero of the country. He's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
my yeah, in the top 10 to me of musicians in the world is Buddy Guy. Just and besides he wears polka dots. So,
Yeah, it's true.
Good enough reason to
Yeah.
like somebody. Absolutely.
well, you know why he wears polka dots?
I do not.
Because of his mama. His mama used to wear polka dots, and actually people started wearing polka dots. Okay, so there's a National Polka Dot Day, and I ended up going down a rabbit hole and did a whole podcast on polka dots. So polka dots started becoming a fashion because of when people had TB and were coughing up blood, right? Then, so that's nice, right? Polite conversation. But it would mean like, so polka dots would kind of hide things, you know what I mean? And then, we had things like the itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. Then it became like this fun thing. But anyway, his mom loved polka dots, and he went to do some huge gig, and he told her, I'm going to make it. I'm going to buy this car. I'm going to get you a car. I'm going to get you a house. And she's like, all right, you go. You think you're going to do that with your guitar? And he did, and passed away before he could show her. Like he was right there, and she died like a couple days before some big performance or something like that. And so now he wears polka dots in the tribute to his mother.
Nice.
Good story.
That's a great story.
And so there's so many stories about polka dots. It's pretty crazy. I had no idea when I went down that rabbit hole, and pop culture and fashion and but yeah. And then if you're going to talk about TB, you got to think about Van Morrison and TB sheets, Anyway, sorry. If you listen to that song, it's crazy.
I love that song.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think the same album had Who Drove the Red Sports Car, which is again one of the best songs ever written. I don't know why, but it is. Who Drove the Red Sports Car. I
love that. That early Van Morrison stuff's really great. I love it. I love all that stuff.
I'm a big fan of Van Morrison and them. And I had a Christmas EP that came out, and I sent it over to a list of friends who are sending out their Christmas songs. And I sent mine over, and someone said, man, for about 30 seconds, I thought it was a new Van Morrison song. And I was like, wow, that's high praise. I'll take it.
Oh, talk about reviews, man. That's a badass one. Yeah. Van Morrison and I share the same birthday, not the year. But I'm like, apparently he's quite crabby, and he doesn't do interviews or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we're a little opposite. But his music, but I mean, look at all the blues greats, he performed with over the years.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was quiet about it. Some people are like, oh, I played with this person, and it's a big PR thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
He's definitely not ostentatious.
Not at all. Yeah, absolutely.
No. So I love this. So now I'm gonna ask each of you. So Joey, your last album, right? You've got your ones from the Alive Day, and then also the latest EP that was recorded live. Okay. So James, you've got your latest album out. So if you could sit down for either of you, well, both of you, I'm going to ask this question. If you sit down, you could send that to someone and actually be with them when they listen to it. Who would you want to hear the album? Anyone in the world that you would actually want some really good feedback from, to learn and grow from, or hopefully get that awesome review from, but whether they're alive or passed on. So let's go to you first, Joey, and then we'll go to James and give him some time to chew on that.
Well, that's a good question. Interestingly, a lot of my biggest influences I sound nothing like, and you would not necessarily detect them in my musical DNA. But I think I'd love for Johnny Marr of the Smiths to take a listen. He's a great guitar player. And to hear his thoughts on harmony and phrasing and just get that information would be pretty awesome. He's one of my favorite guitar players. I've always thought he's the greatest rhythm guitar player in the world, and I would say that the person that ties him in that role will probably be Pete Townsend. They're both pretty incredible rhythm guitar players, not really lead players, but that would be a good one. And I guess if that would be for the last record, the live album. And the guitar work on that record is important, but I think the vocals are more where the some of the excitement and energy is, and the guitar is playing a more supporting role. So if I had to go for a vocal, gosh, that's there's so many great ones out there. But I'd probably want to hear from somebody like Joe Bonamassa or somebody like that see what they had to say about that. So there's some grit and some powerful notes and some articulation and some improvisation and some ornamentation that goes on that I thought I'd be interested to hear their thoughts. So, but yes, as I say, I mean, my influences are so varied and radical, which is why I'm an effective producer, because I love so many different styles of music and I'm steeped in so many different traditions. But you wouldn't necessarily think of the Smiths when you hear my stuff. But and of course that's evolved over the years. My first 2 records were alternative rock, and they've bluesed up a little bit as I gotten older.
Yeah, that happens. We have to go through stuff, right? You know what? I would take your last album and have Susan Tedeschi listen to it.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Boy, she would be that. Actually, I want to change that to my answer.
But isn't that a badass answer? She's the perfect one.
Yeah,
because of the guitar, the vocals, and the whipping post, so that connection there.
Yeah.
And she just, I would like to hear her, because she also keeps things loose but knows when to tighten up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have a lot of respect for her. When I think she's just gone and gone. And
her husband's no slouch either.
Oh my God! In the slide
Not at all.
Guitar.
No slouch is a good description.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
He's got to be one of the best living guitar players, right?
Ever.
Yeah. He's great.
Ever. Him. I mean, his slide. I mean, and he gets into it. And you were talking about Indian music. He gets into some of the world music and does like these. He does it like he.
There's some ragas.
Yeah, so I was going to say, he's playing sitar on the guitar while he's sliding it at the same time. But he's like, whenever he's playing, I think he's completely in a different planet.
Oh, yeah.
He's connected to the band, but I feel like he's channeling. And I'm not, you know what I mean? He's channeling. It's like there's an other world thing happening with him. I really believe that. I know musicians like that, where this Native American flute player, Reverend Ozan, and I watched him take his hands on his flute and wipe flies away from his face, and the flute was still going. Dude, I'm telling you, I've seen some weird stuff, but you never know. What was I doing at that concert? I'm just kidding. But James, like, who are you going to put for your latest album, A Lemon Live?
Well, I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you a live one and a dead one.
Okay,
and these
cool.
These are both to my wonderful gratification people I've been compared to favorably in reviews. The live one is Ry Cooder. He and I have so much in common in terms of variety of music, and he writes too, and I've been listening to him for years, and
I love him.
Just his whole eclecticism is kind of what my stuff's all about. So he's definitely on. And the other one, and I got this review once that compared me favorably, actually 2 of them, to Hank Williams. And I was, of course, delighted, of course. And I would like him to hear stuff, because he also had a lot of variety and just that, he was like so genuine. And I'm not a big country music fan, but I love Hank Williams.
Williams Sr. is really special, and he's one of my dad's greats. So I grew up listening, one of Dad's favorites. I grew up listening to him, but he's a blues man. I mean, he's playing country.
Yeah.
But it's
country blues. Yeah.
And wow, what a fantastic band! What a fantastic singer! Great recordings. I mean, and songwriting.
Best song.
So,
Yeah.
Just had the whole package.
No, other than being a personal wreck, there's nothing bad about him.
Well, that's the story of many. I was going to say to you too, for your album, I know this sounds weird, but I would actually go to Jack White.
That makes sense.
That's really interesting. I like that. That's really interesting. That's a good point.
there's a whole other side of Jack White, right? And he rocks it out. Like, I feel like when with the raconteurs and stuff, he's almost goes like a Zeppelin path in a way, but he gets that. And he, loves the old blues, the old style sitting outside, crazy. But like, I always feel like I feel like he could write a murder mystery album, what he does.
Yeah.
That's great.
He could. Mm-hmm. I do see that in him, but he's a good guy too. I adore what he does, and just in he's one of those creative geniuses, right? Like just creative on all levels and design and all of it. But I think he would dig it because he's also not about that ultimate perfection stuff,
That's for sure.
Yeah,
I used to. There's several movies of him in the white stripes that you can see on YouTube, and I just love them because he's just like they're just out there and crazy, and of course the whole sound of just drum and guitar was kind of a genius move.
Yeah, and he's also a big analog from the studio side of things. He's a big analog gear nut.
Mm-hmm.
So I that because I'm the same way. I don't eschew digital technology. I mean, use whatever gets you what the sound you need the fastest. But I definitely love the analog stuff, and I've been bitten by the bug, and so I collect very expensive analog pieces of equipment.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan that way. But that's boy. Lisa's on fire tonight. She's just got
after I've had a bunch of mishaps of technical stuff going on in this recording, which hopefully will be edited out, including having a coughing attack. Hopefully no one's hearing that.
I think you were overwhelmed by the conversation.
I was totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I do have another question.
Yeah. Well, except part of our conversation today was all about there's no perfection, so you could leave that stuff in.
No, exactly. I'm trying. Yeah,
Lean
exactly.
In. That's right.
Yeah, here it is. I do want to ask each of you a favorite live album or song. So this is, to me, like there's so many out there, and it's kind of crazy because I was trying to run through my head going, uh-oh. So Joey, do you have a favorite of somebody else's music that's live?
Yeah, I have two that I play on a regular basis. One is the Allman Brothers at Fillmore East.
Oh, I got that one too. I agree.
Which is fantastic. And then, it's fantastic. And there's also a live Miles Davis record called 4 and More that's live. And he plays So What at like an insane tempo. And it's pretty impressive. And it's just full of joy and energy. And then as I'm speaking, I thought of one more that actually was my entree into jazz and when I was in my teens, and that was Oscar Peterson live at the Blue Note. And
I love that album.
That's such a good album. Oh my God. And so and what's really interesting is the first live at the Blue Note album with Oscar Peterson came out as a single record. And then about 10 or 15 years later, they ended up releasing all his entire stint at the Blue Note as like a 4-disc box set.
Nice.
So I have both of those, but the first one, the original one is still my favorite, which is just called Live at the Blue Note. And then I think the other ones are called like Set 1, Set 2 and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, it's just the absolute sheer joy that he has in playing.
Oh, he's incredible.
And what's so crazy is, he'll start a song with just his right hand. And you're just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then all of a sudden, here comes the left hand. You're like, how did it get any better? So anyway, yeah, those are my answers for you. But those are some killer records.
Have you ever heard that one he did with Anita O'Day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What an album. Yeah.
I mean, he has so many great records, and actually was a bigger celebrity than is at first, sort of obvious. He really was, especially in Europe and stuff like that. He was really a big celebrity, and I've read not an autobiography. I read a biography on him, and apparently he taught piano for a while, and apparently his students were terrified of him because he was not really did not suffer people that didn't put 150% into their craft too well. So So, but I don't know how true that is. That's what somebody said. But I do know that when he plays, there's a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to now. I have some music to go listen to.
You have
Some new
homework.
music. Yeah, I do. What about you, James?
All right, James.
A live album. It's your turn.
I have several that I like, but the one that is my favorite, and this is odd, I've always had kind of a love-hate relationship with The Who. I don't really like their music that much, like on record, but I always liked seeing them live. And my favorite record, one of my favorite live records, is their Live at Leeds album.
That's the one. That's the one.
That one just, it's like, that's them in their essence. I mean, it's so powerful. And Pete's guitar playing is just killer, and it's just I love that album, and it's actually the only Who album I have. Oh, wow. I listen to it a lot.
Yeah, I've got their like 50 greatest hits or whatever CD, and then I've got the Live at Leeds, and I think maybe I have Tommy, and I
have Tommy,
and so I have those, but I know exactly what you mean. That Live at Leeds record's a classic.
It's just incredible. Yeah, it's just so tight, and it just and all the elements of their sound. Daltrey's singing and Pete's playing and just how everything goes together. The drumming, it's just a great album. So that's my choice.
There's a guy on YouTube and Facebook and all your favorite social media named JJ Blair, who's a really fine producer and recording engineer, and somehow he gets his hands on these multi-tracks of these classic songs, and he takes you through these classic songs and pulls up just the drums, and then he pulls up just the guitar, and then he pulls up.
Oh yeah,
and it's really cool. And he just did one on Pinball Wizard.
Nice.
And I always loved Keith Moon's drumming, though I've always thought it was a little out of control. Like he's kind of wild. He's kind of a wild man. But man, when you listen to Pinball Wizard, the complicated stuff he's doing on the drum kit that he does with absolute surgical precision is mind-blowing. Yeah. If you can find it, it shouldn't be that hard. J.J. Blair.
That was the only band where the drum was the lead instrument.
Yeah. He was just incredible. Incredible. Yeah. I was just really just blown away by the stuff he was doing with kick drum and the stuff. And I hadn't really listened to I love the Who, and I've always thought they were talented, but I hadn't really ever listened to them when my producer had on. And then when I sat down and listened to these separated tracks, I was just amazed.
Yeah.
Well, my album is going to be The Doors live in concert because it's hysterical at the same time as incredibly badass. Because Jim Morrison, I think he could have created his own cult. Honestly.
Oh yeah, almost did.
He could be a cult leader. That's not very nice, but I'm saying, he just was, he
was charismatic. I got it.
Incredibly charismatic, a fantastic poet. He had an energy, and he really, when you talk poetry and performance, he's a different kind of storyteller that people forget about sometimes. I think people just know the Doors, and they just feel like, when Val Kilmer passed, sadly, he was a hell of a talented actor.
Oh, yeah.
I believe. Mm-hmm. When he did The Doors, that movie, he did all the work, all the music, the singing. He learned everything, went to a vocal coach. He did the whole thing. It was a fantastic movie. But The Doors itself, every bit, I think he really put blues and rock together in a different way. Like, it's just different than what anybody else kind of did at it. I don't know. Just it was different. It was poetic, and it was vulgar and beautiful. At the same time.
Yeah, I like The Doors a lot. I have not heard the live album, so I'll have to
Oh my God, you've got to, because he did Who Do You Love? And the drums, it is tribal as all hell. I don't know, James, if you've heard the live album. It is.
I think I did years ago. Not since then.
It's crazy. This album is a 2 CD thing, and I think I still have it in the car. And never giving rid of my car because it has a CD player, even though she's finicky about it. But Who Do You Love it just, because you can hear where he's starting to build energy in
Yeah,
an audience. And in the audiences, these weren't massive. Well, he did do arenas and stadiums, but not like what we have today. So it takes you that old school vibe, and you can hear how he's riling the crowd and the women up. You can hear it, you know?
Yeah.
And Who Do You Love just goes, and it's like this poetry that goes and goes from it, like it's like a play that goes from one scene to the next seamlessly. Like, it's just insane. And when Who Do You Love, that version, I know Bo Diddley would dig it. It is insane. And Gloria, what he did to Gloria, no one else has ever been able to. I've not heard versions of those two songs, like anybody else other than what they did live. And
nice.
That's interesting.
There's two other, it's crazy. We used to perform Who Do You Love in the band years ago when I was performing. And I was like, this is how you do it. And everybody else was going to more like George Thorogood style, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's good, but this. And for me, I just come out of Africa. So like, this to me is like the tribal goods, man. This is where I'm at home in this. And really got to it. And we had a percussionist as well as a drummer. So if you just had the drummer, it wasn't as good as when we had the percussionist, Eddie Molina. Fantastic, amazing percussionist. And he could, and he's Latin. So he had the Latin stuff going on top of it. And it's, you know how Santana has that energy that can elevate, right? This was it. And so we would do that, and we'd just kind of grow this energy. And I remember we were in California, and our friend Johnny Master and the Mama's Boys were performing at Babes and Ricky's. I think it was at Babes and Ricky's, or we were at Venice Beach. And Babes and Ricky's was the first black-owned blues club in LA. And I got up on stage like a stupid person thinking, this is like, no. She's like, boy, that Mama was like, she'll be back. She's got some growing to do. And I did something in the wrong key and tried to do it. And it's like, once you're in the wrong key, it's like a comedian bombing, you're going down in flames. But, I remember it was Venice Beach. We were playing at Venice. It wasn't there, but Venice Beach. And I couldn't explain they just started to do this song. I went to just sit in, and I didn't understand. I don't know how to do it other than that kind of craziness, the crazy version. And so it was a really weird thing. And the guitarist at the time, Dave Melton, this was years, and Dave Melton, guys, look him up in LA. Dave Melton is one hell of a guitarist. He looks at me, goes, "Oh, I get what you're doing. You're going tribal." And I'm like, yeah, because, I used to perform barefoot and fly around and be crazy. And that was it. And it was that album. And there's so many, like Fleetwood Mac did a really cool live album. There were some live albums out there, but that album is insane what he did. And I think it's forgotten, so I'm just putting it out there for people to kind of rediscover the Doors and go to the live part of it, because I never got to see him perform. And so that's as close as I can get to it, Oh,
yeah.
If you don't get to hear musicians and bands perform live, sometimes that's the only way. And YouTube, sometimes you can get it, but there's just recreated parts of what the Doors did on YouTube. There's no real, people mess with stuff on AI.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at YouTube how much there is. Oh my God, I've seen so many good. Whenever I am researching some new song or something, I just go on YouTube and find all the different versions. I like to, if I'm really trying to find the essence of a song, I like to hear what other people that aren't the famous stars or anything, but just people who post their own versions of songs on YouTube, just to kind of hear their approach to it and stuff. I've learned some interesting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good old YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. You can get sucked down there for a while. It's good stuff. Guys, it has been so much fun having you on the show. James, thanks for coming back on, and congrats on the new album and that it's kicking butt already out there. Everyone, you can go to blindlemon-pledge.com. The videos are up there so you can see the live performance. Again, it's Lemon Live. You can make it in lime if you want. I somehow want like a 7-Up or something. It's weird. It's like I want to.
It's the number 3 in California roots music this week, so I was pretty happy about that.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic. It is. It is.
It's been a real pleasure to get to meet you and visit with you and hear your music. So I appreciate you coming on.
You too, Joey. Thanks, man.
And everyone keep up with Joey at joeystuckey.com. He's here every fourth Sunday with our music talks. And who knows what we'll be talking about next month. You'll just have to tune in and find out. Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.
I'm a junkyard dog and I'm howling out your dog. I'm a junkyard dog and I'm howling out your dog. Come on, kitty, kitty, won't you give me just a little bit more? I'm a junkyard dog and I'm howling, kitty. I'm a junkyard dog.